Show on 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. I'm Jeff. That is Tom. We're doing it a little different today. Obviously, working from the house for those that are watching in the chat. We are not live in the studio today. A couple reasons for that. First of all, the storm has, for whatever reason, frightened the world in Leon County anyhow, and made it so that nobody goes to school. So my kids are home. And parents are scrambling today. You guys can relate to that. And then secondly, we've got a lot of construction stuff going on in the studio at Real Talk. It's going to make for a better studio, but it doesn't make for great live broadcasting while they're knocking down walls. So a couple things. We are not live in the studio today. We are at the house, and this was recorded just a little bit ago, short time ago, right before we went on the air. It would normally go on the air. So it's fresh content. It's just not live, and we're required to tell you that. All right, let's welcome him in. It is Redemption Thursday. We've got picks, Tommy, we got to get to. I had a winning week last week. I got to double-check on that number. I think it was close. I think it was like same thing. I think it was like a 6-4 mark. Week before I did 6-3-1. But that's back-to-back, and that was on the heels of the one really good week. So we're starting to put it together. It's taken a little time, but we have found a way, and now here we go. They're up on the board, brought to you by our friends at Metro Deli. I don't see why not. I'll remind everybody, is that 11 a.m., Tom? I believe it is.
Yeah, 11 a.m. is the 20th anniversary of our friends at Metro Deli. It's in downtown Tallahassee. You can't miss it. It's just between college and Park. You'll see a long line. They've got some stuff outside the storefront on Saturday morning. It'll be from 11 all the way to 5 p.m. They got live music from 3 to 5. You'll be able to take in the college football games starting at noon. They've got a couple of TVs on either end of the shop. Plus, it is free beer while supplies last. They just want to thank everybody in Tallahassee for 20 great years. And what a great way to do it with their food plus free beer while supplies last. Nicely done, Metro Deli.
And we thank them for sponsoring Redemption Thursday. Florida State, right off the bat, top of my board, right on top of the card. Yes, I'm betting it in my personal life. FSU -7 at Syracuse. Lay it. I'll tell you something else. You could have got 6.5 earlier in the week. This guy may have. If you did, that's a better number. That's a gooder number, Tom. That's a gooder number right there. Is that -6.5 as opposed to the 7? But I also took FSU team total over 29.5. I'm going to ride the wave, man. I really am in love with this offense and the way they're playing right now. They seem so in sync. They get into a rhythm early in games. Mike's knack for play calling right now, he is in a zone, really is. Really almost everything he chooses to do seems to work, and when it doesn't work, it's usually not because of the play call. It's a kid making a great play on the other side, somebody missing a throw, maybe somebody trips, something like that. Like the play, when you go back and watch the games, and I know you do this too, when you watch the plays that don't succeed, you're like, well, they had it. They had it right there. There could have been something, but, so-and-so tripped, or, sometimes individuals get whipped. It is football. It does happen, but the play is usually the right play. So I'll go over that team total. My fear, we were talking about this some off the air. My fear is honestly that Syracuse will control the football a little bit, because if they are able to establish the run, it does look like Schrader is going to play. I was reading around some of their boards up there at Syracuse. He's practiced all week, Tom. I think he's going to play. So the bottom line is, if he does, it makes our task a little bit more difficult. Game could end up being fewer possessions, and you would get screwed on the team total over there. But if that doesn't happen, I like Florida State to go over. I took Michigan and laid the 30.5. If this were 31.5, I wouldn't have touched it, but it's not. It's 30.5. So I will lay 30.5. Nebraska is in a bad way. By the way, there are benefits to doing that show with Nebraska that I sometimes reference on this show. They're beat to hell. Their number one defensive player is a safety. He is out due to a arrest. So that's a toughie. He was arrested and charged with DUI. He has been suspended. He is their second leading tackler. He was their leading tackler last year. He also leads the team in snaps played. He is their unquestioned best player, and he's not going to play in this game. They were already decided underdogs. Their starting quarterback is not going to play either. They hate Chubba Purdy. He has been awful any chance he's gotten. So I don't know if that warms the heart of FSU fans, but it should be noted that he's not any good at all. And so they may have to play their third-string quarterback. I'm taking Michigan and laying it. Pitt minus 4.5 against Virginia. Kind of a hunch play here. I like Pitt by more than a touchdown, so I had to lay the 4.5. Georgia Tech and a pick 'em against Miami. Georgia Tech plays hard. They won last week at Virginia Tech. If you watch that team play, they got overwhelmed by a much better Florida State team, but it wasn't for a lack of effort. They do try. Sandwiched around Florida State's ass kicking of Georgia Tech are two pretty good performances from them. They do play hard, and I think they'll play hard here. And I'm not so sure Miami's going to play hard anymore, folks. I don't know that they have the will to play hard, and they're also injured at quarterback. I'll take Georgia Tech to win the game outright. App State minus 1 against Marshall. If there was a siren to be hit, there it is. Thomas hit the App State. Marshall's got some questions at quarterback themselves with injury. I like App State here because of that. South Carolina plus 8 against Florida. This is more about Florida's defense being awful than it is about South Carolina. I do think South Carolina will hang in this game. I don't think they'll win this game, but I like the 8 points. Get more than a touchdown. They'll hang around. They'll score a lot of points. Everybody does against Florida's defense. Kansas plus 3.5 against Texas Tech. Lance Leipold is unquestionably one of the best coaches in the country, and they were on a huge roll and obviously lost their quarterback due to injury and yet hung in there. Even the games that they lost during that stretch, they were in them late. They had opportunities. They're getting back healthy right now. I just like to ride that train. Texas Tech is blah. Give me Kansas plus 3.5 on the road. Wake minus 3.5. Finally, North Carolina's defense is going to come back to haunt them. I think Wake will light them up offensively in a score fest here. Give me Wake at home and lay the 3.5. North Carolina comes crashing back to earth, although they are a good team. They're just not a great team. Give me Wake. South Alabama minus 16.5 against Texas State. We pay attention to South Alabama because they're nearby, and there's a friend who likes South Alabama and talks to me when he really likes South Alabama. And so, you got to use what you got. You got to use what you got. You got to have people, where we're trying to ascend to. And I see the GIF there. That is good. The woo, 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 woo. There you go. I will tell you, the goal is to ascend to a place in our gambling prowess where I got dudes all over the map. I got my Nebraska guy because I work with them. So by that connection, I might be introduced to a Big Ten guy, a guy who's got a good feel for Big Ten teams, Tommy. And then maybe I get a Pac-12 guy soon. I find a guy that maybe I do the show with on Sunday mornings who's also a sporting guy, and he's got a feel for the Pac-12 and their personnel and who's out in a given week, right? We're the ACC guy. We'll help our friends out in the ACC. We're close enough to the SEC that we can observe closely there. You just got to have people planted. You got to have them all around. And I happen to have a South Alabama guy, and he says lay the 16.5. So I did. And that is a look at your Redemption Thursday wagers. Let's try to make it 3 weeks in a row and roll on Big River. Maybe later in the show, I'll sprinkle in my little NFL moneyline parlay.
Yeah, one thing you said about Coach Norvell and the way he schemes up game plans and some of the plays that are not successful. For a moment, when I thought about that, I saw a montage of maybe 7 or 8 runs by different Florida State running backs where they get just leg whipped. It's the last guy as you're exiting the gap created, the giant hole that either counter creates or whatever.
Well, we create an extra gap all the time. It's awesome to watch us do this.
And you see an arm reach out or a hand reach out and grab a shin, and then the guy goes down. And I thought to myself in that moment, because these are good running backs here. I'm not denigrating these running backs. But imagine you had Dalvin Cook with this scheme. Could you imagine the productivity? Just everybody else is the same. All the other 10 players are the same, but you insert Dalvin Cook into this running attack. The numbers he would have produced would have been absurd.
Well, there's a suddenness about Dalvin Cook that strikes me even today when I watch NFL games with him. And if you have the ability to be sudden in the National Football League, you are really fast. You are ridiculous. Your quickness is beyond reason. It's preternaturally great because those guys – watching NFL football is an exercise and I think a humbling exercise if you ever fancied yourself an athlete. Watching those guys run and jump and hit and the violence and the speed and the anticipation and the intelligence like that is world class, obviously. And Dalvin is quick to get to the line and set people up, even in that league, even against the best defenders in the world. So you're right. The further removed we get from Dalvin, I thought he was the best running back in Florida State history while he was here. We talked about that a lot. I remember the debate would rage on. And after a while, even the people that were like, no, man, and, people who would say work done or whomever, I think over time they were kind of like, yeah, maybe Dalvin is just better. He is.
Yeah, what didn't he have? That was the thing. It's like, oh, you want breakaway speed? You want elusiveness? You want acceleration? You want
strength?
The ability to break a tackle? Yeah, I mean, he had all those things. Was he a bowling ball like Greg Jones? No. Was he as elusive as Warwick Dunn? Maybe not in terms of being brought down. Warwick never got squared up on a tackle
ever
in his life. But when you put all those tools together, my God, it was breathtaking.
Great hands too, Tom. He's got the most underrated hands of the group too. Like that catch he made last week, one-handed in the back of the end zone. That stuff receivers do, man. He has great hands. That's why Jimbo loved him, by the way. Every time I would talk to Jimbo about Dalvin Cook, he'd be like, man, he can really catch it too. You should just watch him catch it. And I'm like, well, I do.
That's true. Also in this scheme with the wheel route, I mean, you're dead. You're a dead man walking with that guy. And then
that said, Toafili's really good at that. Really good at that.
He is. There's no question. But the separator for Dalvin was really simple. It was here. It was the angles, the calculations that he could do in his mind was just unbelievable. That he knew while he was juking the linebacker that was a fixed issue. He's going to take an extra half step inside to make sure the safety takes a poor angle so that way he can set up and bounce around. It is the dumbest thing you ever saw. But the good thing is we should be attracting players like Dalvin Cook out of high school, because when you turn on the tape of Florida State and the way we run the football, and hopefully that's what we see again this weekend on the way to covering -7 and hitting team total over 29.5, this is as attractive a place as it gets, because here's the good news. The offensive line figures only to get better over the next 2 to 3 seasons.
I had a good conversation with somebody about that in the coaching ranks yesterday, and we were talking about how exciting that really is where the excitement lies, right? It's that the line's going to get even better. Yeah. And we don't think Alex Atkins is going to take the Charlotte job. Yeah. So if he doesn't take the Charlotte job, which I don't think he will, then he's back for another year. You got him for at least one more year, and you got to make hay, because he's going to have real tools to work with, players that have gotten bigger and stronger and longer and just have more natural gifts. Armello will be a full-time starter who I think can be a special player. Estes is one of the strongest players in the conference, at least by the measurements that we read and what we hear. He's also got some nastiness to him. Now, he's got to get better from a technique standpoint. Yes. He's got some technical issues to work on, but who better to fix that than Alex Atkins? So. Yeah.
A point on Estes that I'd say is they're working on that very, very hard. They're spending a lot of time with him to refine his game. I think that if they simplified things for him, he could be a primary reserve right now, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But they're trying to groom him and push him. And there are times, certain players, it goes this way. You coach every player differently. But there are times it's downright something out of an officer and a gentleman. You're like, my God.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I don't think this is cruel. I'll take one of the lighter moments that I saw. Estes got told by Atkins, that's okay. We need backups as well. Right. I spit out my gum. I was He took a false step, and I just cracked up. You're like, that's all right, son. We need backups.
They know the guys who can handle that too. That's the other thing. Yeah. But Atkins will tell you, I'm your friend when we're in the room, the video room, but then on the field, I'm going to coach you really, really hard. And they're doing that for all those guys. I mean, Armella gets challenged on a daily basis like that. Sure. The fun part is I just love the mutual respect. And this is where watching those trench drills so often is just a joy. You know, they don't get a ton of reps, each of these players, when they do that drill, because it goes down the line rep by rep. So you might get 2 or 3 cracks at it if you're lucky 4. Mm-hmm. But when you see Jared Verse want to take on Armella, you know, like he walks over and there's a point to be made, because Armella will be later in the period because they go down by merit and depth chart. But Verse wants a piece of it. And they both understand, respect each other, say hello, and then go to battle. It's like a heavyweight tilt. There are times when Armella gets the best of Verse, and it's really impressive. And then there are times when Verse just puts Armella in the turf and you go, oh, God.
Well,
but they get up and then they congratulate each other and then they get better. Those types of things beyond what Alex Atkins does, we're getting to a place where the competition between the defensive front and the offensive front, day by day, they make each other better. I'm not going to use Corey's phrase that's overused, but you get the point. It's great to see, and it's only going to foster better depth on both the lines of scrimmage in the years to come.
Well, it's something to follow up on. I want to do that next because you kind of walked right into an area that we haven't spoken much about. We did a year ago, and we certainly did 2 years ago. I'll expound on that in a moment. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV. Imagine for a moment that you are completely weightless with zero gravity. All of your worries and stress melt away. Your mind stops racing and you fall into a profound state of pure relaxation. This is available to you right now at Tallulah Delta 8 Plus Floating in Railroad Square for just $50. These state-of-the-art floating pods are unlike anything else you've ever experienced. And while you're there, you can shop for some of the latest and greatest CBD and Delta 8 products on the market. Natural pain management, stress relief, and better sleep are all at your fingertips at Tallulah. Tell them Jeff Cameron sent you and thank me later. Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hi, everybody. It's Ed Dean, Florida's #1 statewide radio talk show, now in Tallahassee afternoon drive from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on Real Talk 93.3 FM. Yes, highly entertaining, fast-paced, never boring. We always give you the story behind the story when you catch the Ed Dean radio show. And we are ready to go. Tallahassee daily, 5 to 6 p.m. It's the Ed Dean radio show on Real Talk 93.3 FM WVFT.
Over 50 years ago, when Paul Nicholson founded Paul's Termite and Pest Control, he had one goal in mind: provide the best service possible to his neighbors so they felt like family. Your problem was his problem. So today, it's our problem. Paul's service area is our home. It's where our kids go to school, where we shop, and where we get involved with community organizations. So if some out-of-town company knocks on your door and begins pressuring you to sign an agreement for termite or pest control, you can bet on a few things. Number one, you'll never see that person again. Number two, your technician is likely to change often. And number three, your money will not stay in North Florida. These companies are sending your money to home offices in Atlanta, Orlando, Salt Lake City, or even Great Britain. Paul's Termite and Pest Control knows local means something to you. The health of your Tallahassee home, family, and pets is our #1 priority. For the elimination of termites and pests and a greener lawn too, call your local company with local solutions. Paul's Termite and Pest Control.
Hey, this is Greg Tish. Here's something you might know about me. I don't drink coffee. I have never had a cup of coffee in my life. Well, that is until now. So why change now? Well, it's because my dear friend at Grassroots Coffee reached out to me after hearing me say that and insisted that I give his product a try. I've been making a huge mistake. The world of coffee is fascinating. I always thought coffee is coffee, you know? No, it's not. I have tried their coffee and it is fantastic. Now, I've got a fascination with learning more about the best coffee in our area. Grassroots Coffee is locally roasted, locally owned, and locally loved. You can find whole bean Grassroots Coffee on the local aisle at Publix, also in Whole Foods. But the best way to get this black gold is to order it online. They literally grind the fresh roasted beans to your preferred level, bag it, write the date on it by hand so you know the exact day your coffee was roasted. It doesn't get any more fresh than that. Order yours now. Just go to grassrootscoffee.com and choose the coffee you want and how you want it. And join me. Let's step up our coffee game together and also support a great local business.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com.
Yeah, and I was thinking, welcome back, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. I was thinking, we were just talking about it a moment ago, Tom. One of the things that gets lost in the shuffle so often when you watch a game and you talk about why something works or doesn't work, or what's a problem, a persistent problem for Florida State, we're probably hypercritical of the team we cover because we see all their warts. We get the opportunity, thanks to Mike Norvell's policy, to watch practice, and we know each individual player's weaknesses and strengths and everything in between, and then we watch it play out on a Saturday. But for a long time here during the downturn, with the losing seasons and the frustration mounting and the angst as to whether or not Florida State was ever going to get back to where they needed to be, the thing that didn't get talked about enough was they had so few in the way of good players and depth of good players. They really could not practice to get better. You had to practice to survive. You had to you had to protect the few good players you had that gave you a chance to win. You couldn't challenge them and go to war with them. Scrimmages scared everybody to death because if you lose one of those guys, and an already pretty bad season was going to turn into an awful season. And I just don't think the talent was where those guys could push each other the way you were describing Verse and Armella pushing each other at the end of the last segment. You didn't have plus players across from one another. You might have a plus player here and a guy that's going against him, just a guy. And then over here, you had, maybe the drill would be won, the rep would be run by a defensive player, and we would observe it, and we'd be like, well, he's a good player going against a bum relative to what the expectation is and the standard is. And you're like, well, I don't know. And that's why we would so often be shocked. And we fell victim to this. You, me, and everybody that covers this team. We'd see, for example, the most notable example, DBs dominating receivers a year ago and winning every single rep. And at some point, you watch enough of that, and because you don't have context, you can't see Clemson practice. You don't get to watch Alabama practice or Georgia practice or even North Carolina or middling teams. You don't get to see them practice. So at some point, you're just convinced that the defensive backs must be pretty good, because surely these kids at wide receiver can't just be the dregs of the conference. They can't be the worst receiving core in the conference. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they can. Turns out they were the worst receiving core in the conference. We just didn't know it. We thought the DBs were elite. It wasn't that. The DBs were not elite. The receivers were terrible. But now, when you watch practice, you might see Azareye'h Thomas going against Johnny Wilson. You might see two guys can play. Azareye'h projects very well. We all know that. And he has the athletic prowess and the gifts, and he's a smart kid, and he works hard. That's going to work. He's going to be a good player. And we already know that, look, Pokey's a good player. He's a good receiver. Not an elite receiver, but he's a good receiver. Johnny Wilson's a good receiver. Micah Pittman's a good receiver. They got guys.
Yeah, and 7-on-7s, it usually tilts towards the receivers, I'd say. There are days where the defensive backs win. I thought Tuesday was one of those where it was a pass breakup fest in 7-on-7 that I saw. And that particular day, just to take folks through practice, they run 7-on-7 periods at two very different points of practice. And so I get to see the early one, and then the late one, they split between trenches, and then they do it again. And I thought on Tuesday the defensive backs had about as good of a day as they've had. You combine that with what I saw before the Miami game, which was they were better in zone coverage. It looked like they were quicker, too, in some of the blitz things that they were dialing up. It seems like they're really late bloomers again for the second straight year. See if it continues against Garrett Schrader this weekend. It's a better test to see if the defensive backs have improved if Garrett Schrader plays, because he can make throws, and especially if you're hesitant, he'll make quick throws on you and you'll look silly. So I want to see how that plays out. But for the trench battles, I mean, some of the best battles I've seen since back in camp, most every day, Dimitri Emmanuel and Farmer go head-to-head. And they have some epic days. And by epic days, I mean there are days where Farmer is a clear-cut winner, and it's almost embarrassing for 71. And then there are other days where Dimitri just controls Joshua, and you're like, are you trying? Are you even trying? Because when the offensive line wins the battle, it looks so easy that maybe the defensive line doesn't give a damn on that day. But it goes back and forth, and that's how everybody gets better together. I've seen Jazz at right tackle own certain days, and you go, well, that's in him. And then other days I say, well, I see why his Pro Football Focus grade in a couple of games last year was a 20. It just depends. But also some of the younger guys that are coming up, Julian Armel is one of them. Kanaya Charlton is another player I'm really interested to see develop, not just in spring, but also next fall. He's lost a lot of weight. He's gotten a lot trimmer. I asked some of our colleagues at Warchant, even from spring to fall, that was one jump. But since the start of fall camp to now, I asked Ira and Corey, I said, does he look a little slimmer to you? And they said, yeah, he does. There are days where 69 in the white jersey looks really, really good. And then there are other days where he looks very much like a freshman. But it's against named players. You know what you're observing them going against because it is Josh Farmer or Malcolm Ray or Jarrett Jackson. To your point, it's not just dudes or walk-ons or scout team players. And that's where you get a sense that competition is going to breed a greater sense of depth. And this year, we were wondering how many players could you lose on the offensive line and still be functional as an offense. And we speculated maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 if it's all the right positions. But they lost significant depth on the offensive line, and they've been more than functional. They've been good. That's it. We're at a different place now, and that should be the standard moving forward.
Well, he has a knack, does Alex Adkins, of coaching up players to have some measure of success regardless of their talents. So, if you have Alex Adkins, and I'm obviously heaping praise upon him yet again, but if you have Alex Adkins, you've got a fighting chance with average players. And that's that speaks to being an elite coach. If you have good players, better players, and you have Alex Adkins, well, then you run for 200 plus yards a game. Then you start doing things that we're seeing Florida State do. And Florida State's linemen are going to get better. They're going to get better because the other guys behind the starters right now have a brighter outlook. And that's exciting. And they'll get some dudes back. It'll be interesting to see what this group looks like next year, what that starting group looks like, because they've got a lot to choose from. The other part of that, and expounding on that further, it also allows you to simulate things with real speed. So when you're at practice and you're trying to show your offensive line or show your defensive, let's say the box, right? You're just trying to show the 7 in the box maybe. Hey, this is what they're going to look like. This is what they're going to do. You have athletes now that can rep it, and it's similar to what you're going to see on a Saturday. Now, you can never replicate perfectly what a team does every day, right? You're not, if that's not what you do, unless you both run the same offense, but if that's not what you do, you can't possibly rep it the way they rep it, but you can come close if you got athletes, at least to the speed. And I think that the defense now gets a better look, and the offense gets a better look because the team is more talented and a little deeper and faster than they've been in the last 3 years. So that's also another way where practice changes everything about how you play on Saturday, not just because you're repping what you want to do, not just because you've got, a good understanding of what Alex Adkins wants to do, but because the competition's been raised and you can rep when in an install, you can rep exactly what the other team's going to be in, and it can be pretty close to as fast.
Yeah, to your point, and I'll go to skill really quickly before circling back to the trenches. But if the receivers dominate the defensive backs on a given day in 7-on-7 and maybe in team drills as well, that would be embarrassing last year. That would be, you would be reamed if you're in the defensive back room next time you meet with your position coach or with Adam Fuller. That's not embarrassing anymore. Like, you've got some play. Like, if Johnny owns 7-on-7, and so does Ja'Kai Douglas, because you're in a one-on-one coverage drill and that guy's shot out of a cannon, and then Micah Pittman's able to use body control on the sideline and make a couple of big catches. Really, is that anything that you should be screamed at? If you're a defensive back for it? No, it's not. We're in a different place at that specific position. And then one thing I want to bookmark this for after the bowl game, because we're going to a bowl game. We didn't really note that this week, but Florida State is bowl eligible, and we are indeed guaranteed.
We will play in a bowl game. We won't just be sitting around here watching everybody else, which is enjoyable. We'll have one to cover as well. Yes.
The bowl swag segment will include what Florida State gets, and we'll see cowboy boots, a belt buckle, or a gift suite. We'll see. Probably a gift suite. But when this season is over and that bowl game is over, I look forward to talking about some of the advanced tactics that they're teaching for the offensive line. This is no longer an introductory level remedial course where they're just hoping. It's like, composition when you get into freshman year. It's like it's more than just putting a sentence together and then getting a pass fail. They are now going to graduate level studies in some of the things they do. I don't promise to or pretend to know about the leverage or the steps or how it works. I just know the overarching theme and philosophy behind some of the things they're doing. And with that group of the top 2 lines in the depth chart, they're going through that stuff while all the freshmen are getting the remedial training. There would never be a section for the basics and a section for the advanced.
Correct.
In the last 5 seasons. Now there is. It's really exciting. And some of the tactics they're doing are really interesting because the reason you're teaching this is because if you're Alex Atkins, you believe that we don't have to worry about the small stuff. Let's get to some interesting stuff and complex stuff to make that defense think about what's coming next. And then when they think, you're going to beat their ass.
I thought it was interesting earlier this year when Alex blamed himself for some of the confusion and some of the fight being taken to their offensive line. He was angered.
The Wake Forest game.
Yeah. He was angered about their response to what Wake did. He was angered by the empty possessions. I think it was 6 straight empty possessions. He was angered by all of that because he felt like that they were being beat to the punch, that they were reactive, and they were not the ones that were setting the tone or dictating terms. I use the phrase dictating terms all the time because when we talk about football, it's the line of scrimmage and who's dictating terms and resetting the line of scrimmage on defense. And obviously establishing a yard, 2 yards down the field, a new line of scrimmage on offense, creating an extra gap through scheme, and really steamrolling people, wearing people out, taking correct angles, all of that. But football is still about domination and bringing the fight. And Florida State's in a position right now, certainly offensively, to kind of consistently do that, certainly against middling ACC teams. And that's not a knock on us because we did it pretty well against LSU as well. So I think that is now what we expect to see every weekend. And that's just a reminder to folks that is completely different. When we went through the stages where I would call the offensive line, I'd call them sorry ass or ass sorry. And then later on, I just said they were sorry. And then later on, they were average to below average, slightly below average. And the fight to get to average was a phrase I used all the time. Can we just be average? Can we aspire to be average was what I would say every day. Just think about how far removed we are from that. I mean, when we watch this offensive line now, the expectation is, can we dominate?
Right.
That is a very different talking point, and it's a very different way of viewing a football game, and it's certainly one that infuses all kinds of hope.
Yeah, one thing that Atkins had said after the Wake Forest game and when he expressed his disappointment was, when they came to the sidelines, there was an oh moment, as in, oh, right, I should have done that, instead of this is what happens. So they knew the answers in the classroom in a way, but then the application of those answers was just, it wasn't instinct. And note that the next week they started running more outside zone. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but the next week against NC State, they ran it so much I was a little concerned by it, but it paid off the following game against Clemson where we go, oh, crap, this is just what they do now.
They can do it, yeah.
By the
way,
go ahead.
I
was going to say the question about this weekend against Syracuse, we ran counter 30, 32 times, whatever it was, according to Miami's metrics, and sure, they would count because they've got to teach on that.
Right.
They got destroyed by it. But I don't know that you want to run counter a ton against this 3-3-5 because what that's doing is taking an offensive line and a group of tight ends that aren't the fleetest of foot and forcing them to get to a level deeper than they normally would get to set blocks in order to pave the way for the running backs. This Syracuse group is slippery. The front six, the 3-3-5, is slippery. And if you're not fully engaged, they're going to get by you, and they're very good at tackling and closing something down for a gain of 2, where against maybe a standard 4-2-5, it'd be a gain of 5 or 6 or 7. So I wonder this week if it's more straight ahead and more outside zone. I think it needs to be a little bit more slow developing for the running back, but straight ahead for the offensive line. We'll see if that bears out, because against the 3-3-5 of NC State, they didn't really care. It'll be interesting to see what they do now because their confidence has to be so much higher this weekend.
I do think you're going to see a lot of outside zone. And I think they can line up and bully Syracuse. That happened, by the way, with Notre Dame. They bullied Syracuse. If you talk to Syracuse people, they would say it's 3 games in a row that they have really struggled against the run. And they're very frustrated by that. They're starting to ask questions, what's happening on defense. Syracuse is number 2 in the ACC in scoring defense, despite this 3-game losing streak. But they are a team that have begun to reveal some blemishes, some cracks in the armor. A lot of that was early in the season, that domination. Obviously, they came out the gates with that huge 31-7 win. We were all like, what's going on at Syracuse? Goodness gracious, It was against Louisville, wasn't it?
Yes.
Right off the bat. Yeah. So they did some things early in the season where they were able to amass some numbers that were very impressive, hence the 6-game win streak. But in these losses, they're getting run on. Teams are lining up and running the football on them. And it's timing matters. We're going into a game right now where we have to feel very good about how physical we are, and Syracuse is questioning.
And you noted it, though, after the Louisville game, how many times the Cardinals were over the 50-yard line and in scoring territory, and how many times they came up empty in those situations.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot. I remember saying that to you afterwards. I was like, that score's a little deceiving, yeah.
So is the Clemson one. Clemson ran up and down the field on Syracuse, but a couple of big-time turnovers on their half of the field, in addition to one of those turnovers leading directly to 7 points, a short field and a touchdown for Syracuse. It's a 14-point swing there. You're talking about a 17 to 20-point swing. Clemson still wins the game, even though they look shaky in the second half with a freshman quarterback. I mean, that really should be a margin of victory for Clemson, if you play it standard, about 17 to 20 points, but it's not. And so that scares you all the more. Also, weird crap happens in that building. The Purdue-Syracuse game earlier this year should have been a Purdue victory to the tune of 17 to 20 points. And look at what happens. Syracuse finds a way. It's just strange things happen in the Dome. So that's the thing. You're almost fighting demons. And also, when you shrink the amount of possessions, every mistake you make is more magnified. Sure. So that's the other thing. But the bottom line is, up front, Syracuse averages 255 pounds across the defensive line. The fact that they're number 2 in scoring defense, to me, says 2 things. One, they're a little bit lucky on turnovers, and their top 20 in the country in turnover margin. It's either +7 or +8 entering this weekend. But then number 2, they're doing a good job scheming around their deficiencies and just hoping that you make a mistake. That's also coaching too. And that's why they play so soft in the back end, because they know they're weak and they're forcing you to execute a 10-play drive if you can.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can boil things down to statistically, anyhow, the ship being righted.
Yeah.
When you are plus whatever they were for the largest portion of this season in turnovers, you're going to win games you have no business winning. You're going to win some games by scores that are deceiving in terms of what the yards per play said it should have been. When a team goes 0 for 5 in the red zone with 2 turnovers, I mean, that's nuts. That happened earlier this year for Syracuse, and that's nuts.
Yeah, Clemson lost the turnover battle by 4. I think it was 4-0. 4-0 against there, and they won the football game. That tells you. It reminds me of Bengals Steelers in week 1 of the NFL season.
Correct. The Bengals were much better. Yes, and they lost. Yeah, they lost the game. Well, I mean, I'll give you a good example. I mean, if you think about that last week or the week before when Notre Dame beat Syracuse, the game begins with a pick 6 for Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame was like last in turnover margin for much of this season. Yeah. The big talking point from the Notre Dame people that I interviewed were like, oh my God, we won a turnover battle. It's never happened. We haven't won one all year long. If you talk to the Syracuse people, oh my God, we lost a turnover battle. It hasn't happened all year long. So there you go. I mean, turnover luck is a thing. I mean, if a team fumbles the ball 5 times and all 5 are picked up by the other team, you got really unlucky. That happened with the Duke-Miami game. They had 5 fumbles. All 5 were recovered by Duke. Now they mixed in 3 interceptions for good measure. But, I mean, that's rare. So I think Syracuse is crashing back down to earth in a lot of ways. They've had the injury at quarterback. They're light up front. Teams are able to run on them. They're getting worn down further into the season they get. They're starting not to win every weekend the turnover battle like they were for the first 6 weeks. It bodes well, the timing of this game. Let's see if we're mature enough to go take care of business. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
you heard the sound. Pentalpha Jewelry's the best in town. Rings, diamonds, earrings, bracelets, and more. Pentalpha Jewelry, Jewelry Store.
Hey, this is Greg Tish. I want to tell you about my first experience at Pentalpha Jewelry. It was many, many years ago, and my grandparents took me up there for a special occasion to buy me a necklace. I still remember how amazing the customer service was. Fast forward to today, and I can still go in there and get the same great customer service at Pentalpha Jewelry. Nothing has changed, not even their location, 2903 Appalachia Parkway, where they've always been. Now sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentalpha Jewelry.
Pentalpha Jewelry, Pentalpha Jewelry, Pentalpha Jewelry, all the real nice guys.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Physical stress on our bodies can take its toll as the years go by. Whether you're looking to get back into an old sport or just want to spend more time outdoors to explore all life has to offer in our beautiful city, the dedicated team at TOC is here for you every step of the way. You can trust TOC for all your orthopedic needs. And now, scheduling an appointment has never been easier. Just visit teamtoc.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186. If you're a business owner of any kind, you need advanced fire protection services. We are AFPS, and we provide high-quality life safety services throughout Northwest Florida, and we've been doing it since 1989, with offices now in Tallahassee. Fire sprinklers, fire alarms, fire extinguishers, hood suppression systems, and emergency exit lights. For all of your life safety equipment, we've got you covered 24/7. We are Advanced Fire Protection Services. For a free life safety system evaluation, visit WeSaveLives.com. That's WeSaveLives.com.
Hey, what's happening, Jeff?
It is always good to see you, Eddie. Had a long day, my man. I was thinking about it. Gordo's was the place to ease the pain, you know? You're frustrated with your job. You're aggravated. Life's beating you down. Maybe your wife's speaking. You got to get out the door.
You know what? Here at Gordo's, man, we welcome everybody. Disgruntled wives, disgruntled husbands, kids running away from home. We'll even give that kid a job. Send them our way.
Go make some money and eat delicious food at Gordo's. It's perfect.
And have a damn good time doing it.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Greg Tish here along with
Matty Rowe.
And you can listen to us Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3. Matt, we give away a couple things each week.
Just a few.
We got the Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Wheel of Food. We have Give Me a Second, where we play a second of a song, and you guess that song. And we also play FLA or Nay. We have a lot of fun Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on
The Greg Tish Show.
Think that's enough?
We can talk about our feelings.
There's a lot.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Wrapping up hour number 1, Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Reminder, not quite live today, guys. And by not quite, we're not live at all. We're not live. This was recorded a little earlier today with the schools having the day off. My kids are at home. Lots of people having to hustle and figure it out as weather is pending. But in addition, there's a lot of construction being done here in the studio. So we may be here at the house again tomorrow on Libations Friday as well, but we will get you fresh content is the point. I just need to tell you that it's not live. So that's how that's going to work. You'll probably see this same setup with Dr. J behind me That's an autograph, Dr. J, damn it. Behind me and some candles and all that. And the ball that was given to me by Mike Norvell and all that good stuff. So there you go.
That's the important thing, too. I'll stump for us for a minute. We've got the pregame show at 7 o'clock on Saturday, Zaxby's Warchant game day. And last week you did light the candle during the Miami pregame show at 6:30.
Oh, okay.
That is going to have to be a mandatory part of the pregame show proceedings this weekend. Is we need some candles. Got to get the Brian Kelly one, to be specific.
You know, the Brian Kelly candle, I can tell you, is currently lit in the study. It is lit right now. It's gloomy outside, so yeah.
And now he has become the Alabama Slammer because he just laid a slammer down on Alabama.
I do like, you know, I got to give Brian Kelly credit here. This made me laugh. Did you see the locker room celebration? And one of the LSU players was yelling to the other LSU players as they were all gathered around to celebrate, and they kind of had to circle like they were about to give out game balls and stuff. And the guy yelled out, this is why you come to LSU. And he was all fired, right? And the camera kind of pans to him, and you see Brian Kelly over by the doorway. And then after he stopped, after all the players got done yelling, he's like, you're damn right, that's why we're here. You're damn right. I was like, there you go. There you go. That's good. That's good, Brian. Loosen up. It's okay. You don't have to fake it anymore.
Look, I'm all locked in for this game this weekend because I want us to finish the job. You win this one, you're going to win at minimum 8 games this season, which is huge. And then it becomes that the pressure shifts from the football field to the living rooms and the high schools and the phone calls and the FaceTimes. You got to close on the recruiting trail. But, you know, I'm looking forward even still beyond that. Because that game with LSU next year in Orlando now to be massive. I mean, it's now that they've beaten Alabama, no matter what happens to LSU the rest of the year, they're going to play at Texas A&M the final week of the year, so they'll be our best friends that day as well. But LSU is now in a place where the hype machine for the Sunday of Labor Day weekend in Orlando next year, you can't stop it. Look at where we're going. Look at what they've done. That's going to be a massive game. You thought that there was a little bit extra hype for this one this year because of programs on the rise. Programs have arrived. That's going to be the talking point next year, right or wrong. That's going to be so much fun to be the season opener.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and the two programs seem to be mirroring each other, right? Now, LSU had a bunch of really good players when Brian Kelly got there, and that is a built-in advantage. And make no mistake, Brian Kelly only left Notre Dame to go win a national championship. He knew he would probably not be able to win a national championship at Notre Dame. He got them to as far as you can get them to. He got them to win 10 games every year and go to the college football playoff where they got trounced, but they weren't going to win a national championship there. History shows us without question that you can win a national championship at LSU. Well, the last 3 coaches have. So he's there to do that, and he'll be able to recruit. And I have a hunch LSU will win a national championship under Brian Kelly. And we'll see. I have a hunch that they will. They're invested, Tom.
Yeah.
They care deeply.
How about this question? 3 years from now, the 2025 season, which program is stronger in the SEC West, Alabama or LSU?
It's a great question because I sense in that question that you believe Alabama is teetering on falling a rung below on the ladder. And what I mean by that is they were worthy of the highest praise possible for a very, very, very long period of time. We are seeing some cracks. We are seeing moments, some coaching mistakes on game day, some things that suggest that perhaps, just perhaps, Nick Saban's getting tired, finally. Nick Saban's getting old, finally. And that maybe the time to pounce is now, which is what I think Jimbo Fisher felt when he went to Texas A&M. He wanted to go to a program that was investing, throwing huge sums of money at the problem for all the bells and whistles. Jimbo trusted himself to go recruit, given those built-in advantages. And then if you have better players, you can obviously overcome whatever coaching deficiencies you might have. I'm sure he doesn't look at it that way, but that's true. And he probably figured that it would coincide at a time that as A&M rose, Alabama might fall just just a notch below where they were, and that would enable him to pounce. And what you've got to be desperate about if you're a Texas A&M fan is now LSU went out and got Brian Kelly. Auburn's about to hire a new coach. We'll see if that makes a difference or not. Auburn is dysfunctional, but you can win there, and they're invested, so we'll see who they bring in. Does he have the magic elixir to get Auburn back where – because, they'll play for a national championship at Auburn. We've seen it. It does happen. Yeah. So that West is fierce, and the fight for that domination is going to take place over the next 4 years. And it's hard to bet against LSU in that fight, Tom. It really is, because Brian Kelly is a good coach. I know people don't like Brian Kelly. He's given us plenty of ammunition over the years not to like him, but he's a good coach. And LSU's going to recruit because they'll throw dollars at it, and it's a fun place to play football. I mean, honestly, if you're a kid in Louisiana and they come calling and you're an elite defensive lineman, where else are you going? You got to go to LSU. So they get the trenches. They get the trenches. And I think my argument's going to be that it'll be LSU.
Yeah, I think it could very well be. The other thing is that you have Georgia taking away, the top line from Alabama and spreading out that five-star talent across a couple of programs. So that opens the door. If they're not buttoned up and perfectly efficient as they typically are, that also opens the door a little bit. I think it would be neck and neck. It's not like Alabama's going to be a perennial 9-win team. I'm just saying that who is positioned better at the end of 3 years. A motivated Brian Kelly with motivated boosters is a tough thing to deal with, especially when you got a win in year one. That is a landmark win right off the bat for Brian Kelly. Georgia's recruiting well. Tennessee, I think, will continue to recruit well. That's an exciting offense, so you're going to take some players off Alabama's plate. Ohio State will continue to do so as well.
We'll see. Listen, the East suddenly got interesting. Tennessee, Florida, Georgia.
Right.
I mean, the East has been garbage in the SEC for a while, other than these days Georgia. But now that, watch that play out. And just think about how fun this is going to be when we're talking about this as, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Florida State. Just think how fun that's going to be then, buddy. What an East that'll be.
Well, I'll tell you what, whether or not Florida State is in that division or not, if this offense continues to produce as it is, it's going to be very, very attractive to top-line talent as well. And so Alabama's had a monopoly with Clemson and I guess it would be an oligarchy with Clemson and Ohio State on the state of Florida. If they wanted somebody, these programs were going to come in and get him. Now Georgia is dipping in there. Tennessee, look, maybe Florida retains some players. I think we're going to retain some players. So Alabama just doesn't have the market cornered anymore. And they certainly don't have the trenches cornered in the state of Louisiana. So are we going to an era of college football that's going to be a lot more parity laden? Maybe this is the beginning of it.
Let's hope. It's better for us as consumers. It just is. It makes the whole product better. Competitive balance is important in any sport. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Can take its toll as the years go by. Whether you're looking to get back into an old sport or just want to spend more time outdoors to explore all life has to offer in our beautiful city, the dedicated team at TOC is here for you every step of the way. You can trust TOC for all your orthopedic needs. And now, scheduling an appointment has never been easier. Just visit teamtoc.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
The cooler temperatures are finally here. Thank goodness. Summer is now in our rearview mirror. With the cooler temperatures, we're going to need someplace to warm up. Hearth and Patio can help you with that, whether it's a fireplace, a fire pit, or even warming up while you're grilling for your family. Hearth and Patio can help you with all of these. Give them a call today, 850-727-4282. That's 850-727-4282, or visit them online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Hearth and Patio, they keep the home fires burning, and they keep us warm.
At Epps Decorating Center, we're your locally owned Benjamin Moore retailer. We're your store for quality with brilliant and durable paints in a variety of sheens and thousands of colors. We're your store for service with one-on-one advice for contractors and homeowners. We're your local experts, and we're here to help with all your painting projects. Benjamin Moore, available at Epps Decorating Center with 2 locations in Tallahassee. Find a store near you and visit eppsdecorating.com. That's eppsdecorating.com.
Hurry in to Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale. Get a king bed for the price of a queen or a queen for a twin and save up to $700. Plus, get a free adjustable base with qualifying Sealy purchase. Or shop Tempur-Pedic and get a $300 instant gift. Mattresses and bases are in stock for fast delivery. With our Love Your Mattress guarantee, get the lowest price and 120 nights to sleep on it. Only at Mattress Firm. Restrictions apply. See store or mattressfirm.com for details.
The best part about taking ZQuil Pure Z's Sleep Plus Next Day Energy at night is actually the next morning. I wake up alert with none of the grogginess from taking too much melatonin. Pure Z Sleep Plus Next Day Energy is a bilayer tablet with immediate release melatonin and extended release B vitamins to help me fall asleep naturally and wake refreshed. It's my secret weapon for a great night's sleep and a great morning.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
Can't beat that.
ZQuil Pure Z's Gummies. Sleep better, wake your best.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT. Greta, Tallahassee.
I can't tell you the joy I felt in my heart watching their fan base weep as Coach K and that Duke team lose at Cameron Indoor by a lot to their most hated of rivals, who took an extra measure of joy and exuberance and certainly demonstrated it with each and every passing minute in which it became obvious that the Blue Devils would not prepare.
Well, and it also reminds you that Coach K can just straight up be an ass, like a total self-love, machine of an a-hole. That's what he is at times. Now, there are other moments where he will praise other players and other programs for doing well. Well, he likes winners. He doesn't like when you fail him, and that's how he sees it. You have failed me. Well, there are countless examples. He had the back issue years ago, and he wouldn't let the players
wear the uniform.
Wear the uniform with the logo.
Yeah, remember that? We were laughing about that.
He was laid up in bed, and they were summoned to his house. This is a real story. Yeah. They were summoned to his house, only for him, bedridden as he was, to say, "You don't deserve to wear our logo." Yeah. Like, what? And then Life Spectator put it in the chat last hour. He forced them to sit on the visitors bench. The visitors bench after they lost, and he apologized for them because they were such a disappointment and they ruined the day. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm so glad it went down the way that it did. And for North Carolina fans, that's got to count almost like a Final Four because of what they did to that program that day and that building being like a funeral. It was amazing.
Yeah. That will never go away. I mean, that will always be there. They'll always have that at the bar to bring up. They'll always be able to go, yeah, what happened at the going away party? And you're right. It was evident in the speech that he gave in which he attempted to be humble and gracious, but it was too much for him. He was pissed. He was livid. Now, there's a part of me that gets that. I mean, to go out there and to lay that egg in that game, even less so about, hey, it's my send-off, it's my final game, but it's your rival, your arch rival in Cameron, and you got an ass beat. Continue to pan the crowd. Please show me that. Oh, there she is, crying, weeping over. She's still crying. She was crying with 4 minutes left in the game. What are we doing? Then there were the forlorn, distant stares from the former players, sort of a how dare you guys let us down to this magnitude.
And the current players like, thanks for dogging us. Like, you're really pulling no punches right now when this should just be a grand ceremony of a legacy. Instead, you failed me. Shut up. Let me say what I'm going to say. Like, what? Get my family out here. Keep them away from the players.
I don't want their suck to rub off on them.
Mickey, come here, Mickey.
Oh, it was so good.
Right here in our hometown is a local spot where you can take a break from all your worries. A place where everybody knows his name is Smitty's Tap House and Grill. Smitty's deep appreciation for fine craft beers and tasty bar treats sets the stage as the ideal local neighborhood pub. Want to know more? Just visit Smitty'sTapHouse.com to check out the full menu. Come see us at Smitty's Tap House and Grill on Thomasville Road, just north of Cary Forest Parkway. You'll be glad you came, where everybody knows his name.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. Happy Redemption Thursday, everybody. I'm Jeff. Tom is here along with me. We are not live. If you're just tuning in, this was recorded a little bit earlier, just before the start of the show. Construction being done here at the studios. In addition, Leon County gave the schools the day off, so parents like myself are scrambling. Kids are at home, all that good stuff. We decided to hey, we can't miss Redemption Thursday, can't miss Libations Friday. It's a game week. We're still going to do shows, but we're probably going to have to do the 2 days, this one and tomorrow's show, like we are currently. And I'm obligated to tell you that we're not live. So that's the situation. We're not, but we're with you now. And Redemption Thursday wagers have been given. Let's bring them back up. I've got the sheet right here. Let's get this back out there. I took our beloved Noles. I laid there is -7. I see you fixed it. Did you have one that said 7.5?
Well, no, it was last week's slate, and that was a very good slate because it led with Florida State on your side of the ledger against Miami. So we reflected on it for about 3 seconds and we moved.
Yeah, it was a good slate. I had a winning week last week. Let's try to keep it going. That's 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, something like that. So we're doing better. We're finding our footing here this late in the year. That's the way it ought to be, by the way. Florida State -7 against Syracuse. Let's hope I'm right about that. I also took FSU team total over 29.5. So if you're wondering what FSU TT over is, that is team total 29.5. You can't keep this offense out of the 30s. Who do you think you are, Syracuse? You're not keeping this offense out of the 30s. You may be lucky to keep it out of the 40s. Michigan -30.5 against Nebraska. This is a wounded animal in the form of Nebraska, and not the good kind that fights for its life. They have a starting quarterback problem in that he's injured, and the backup is Chuba Purdy, and he's not any good still. And so it looks like they may be down to their third-string quarterback. They're one of their leading tacklers, second leading tackler on the season, the guy that's played the most defensive snaps, has been suspended for this game due to a DUI after last Saturday's loss to Minnesota. Just couldn't take it, went out drinking, got popped. He's not going to play. So it all adds up to a road trip to Ann Arbor that is seeing the Cornhuskers as the sacrificial lamb. Pitt -4.5 against Virginia. I don't believe in Virginia. They suck. Georgia Tech and a pick'em against Miami. I don't believe in Miami. They suck. Appalachian State -1 against Marshall. Go ahead, Tom, if you would. That'll be fun. South Carolina +8 against Florida. I just don't trust Florida's defense. I think South Carolina will hang around. I don't think they'll win, but they'll be in it. And Kansas +3.5. Just love what Lance Leipold has done there. Wake Forest -3.5 against North Carolina. This is the weekend where Tom gets to celebrate a North Carolina loss. It's going to happen for you, Tommy. I know how much you love it when they falter. The fraudulent goats are amongst us if you're watching online. But, hey, listen, North Carolina, for all their ugliness, finds a way to win a lot of games. That way is the offense because May is a really good quarterback, probably the best in the ACC. But I don't think they'll get stops, and I'll take Wake and lay the 3.5. They're at home. South Alabama tonight, -16.5 against Texas State.
Antonio Banderas loves this pick.
They couldn't have known it at the time that they made that movie, that terrible movie. Isn't that Assassins? I think it is. It's awful. But they couldn't have known at the time that they were going to make what amounts to a perfect GIF. I mean, it really is. I mean, because the modern era, everybody's looking at a computer and garnering information. So to have that and the ability to see him fall back the way that many of us have upon learning something that is joyous, it's perfect.
So is he a good actor, Antonio Banderas?
He has been before, but he's also, chosen to be in a lot of terrible films for the money. So he's not.
Maybe equate him to Stallone? Like where would you put him in the pantheon of capable to be good, but then also just straight to DVD quality?
So Antonio Banderas has been really good in a couple of films, like Oscar-worthy recognition good in a couple of films. You would be right to say about Sylvester Stallone, if people haven't seen Copland, he's awesome in Copland, like really good. So yeah, that is in him. He's really good in Rocky, obviously. He wrote it.
And then in Creed, I get that Creed is a spinoff, but he's playing a very different character.
A broken man, yeah, a worn out, washed up old man. Yeah, no, he is good in that. So it's in there, right? You've seen him be good. It can happen. There's a range of character that you don't normally see from him that he shows in those moments. I would put Banderas at a higher plane of acting, but Banderas chose the money and terrible films after he had established himself and just decided to cash it in.
I mean, he appeared in one of the Expendables, so I don't know. Maybe Stallone has an edge over him. Stallone bought him.
Yeah. Hey, look, guys, you don't have to really try hard. Just be in these stupid movies that people look. How many of these stupid racing car movies that everybody goes and sees? I mean, Fast Car 26 will be coming out any day now.
Yeah, the first Fast and the Furious came out when I was in middle school. I'm old now. That's 20 odd years ago.
I've never seen all of a Fast and the Furious. Maybe I saw the first one somehow, like on cable, flipping around and it's on. You're like, oh, all right, I'll watch some of this. But I don't understand the allure. I don't know how many times you have to watch a car slide, or drift, as the kids say. But I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, it was marketed towards our age. 2001 was when that first movie came out. R.I.P. Paul Walker. That was
devastating loss to the acting community.
To my generation, it was. People are, oh no, not Paul Walker. I mean, the movie is.
By the way, Paul did not die a good death. If you read about how Paul died, that ain't good. He was still alive when that car caught fire.
Oh, really? Ooh, I did not know that.
That's a toughie.
Well, I won't reflect on that as much as going to the movie theater, the AMC in Oldsmar in 2001 with some of my buddies. It was an adrenaline movie for teenagers, but also what they're finding out now in Hollywood is that my generation loves nostalgia more than any other generation. So if you could just keep on cranking out the same content with older versions of the people and retell the stories, we're going to buy it up like crazy.
If you want to do a movie like that, you need to do like Gone in 60 Seconds, because that's a better version of it. But enough about actors. Onward we go. That's a fun show. The range of bad actors and where they fit.
Yeah.
Is there an ounce of talent in there, or did they just get lucky and now they're a marketable brand? Or, every now and then you get surprised.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Gone in 60 Seconds. That's Nick Cage. I mean, he's got some good in there, but he's got some, tremendous.
He won the Academy Award for Best Actor in Leaving Las Vegas. Yeah, he's got good in there, and then he's got a whole bunch of awful. That's kind of fun. Different show, different podcast. We'll do it another day. Yeah, we'll go through all those guys. That's true of a lot of guys. Anyhow, I'd like to believe that you do something long enough, you gain a tacit understanding of how to do it. So you might accidentally fall into being a good actor after 20 years of not being able to act at all. All right, so it is. The slate, the games, they've been chosen. You saw them. Favorite pick of that? You still owe me a tall boy.
I do. Not my favorite pick, but the most intriguing pick to play the role of Poppy for a minute. CC, very intrigued by the South Carolina +8. I find that really interesting, given that, I mean, even if Anthony Richardson does not want to run and maybe he wants to work on throwing the ball downfield and turning down the ability to just truck people, they're physical. Florida is squarely on my radar now about how physically they want to run the football. You can see what Napier is trying to instill. And when you're playing a team like South Carolina, as simple as best, you're just better than them. So that, in a way, I would figure that the game plan would look something like what we just did to Miami, not in terms of score disparity, But in terms of approach, it was just bludgeon. And I don't think South Carolina's got much for that. So the +8's interesting to me. I know you think it's a backdoor, but I'm going to watch that one closely.
Well, I think they'll be able to score because everybody does against Florida's defense. So that's all that is. It's not that I think they win the game, but you've got to be careful if you're Florida. I think, by the way, we've reached the time of the year, and I find all of this interesting. We all do, where you're going to look around the country at the jobs that are available. You're going to look around the country at, so I saw where Adam Rittenberg, who does a good job for ESPN, I've interviewed him before, wrote a piece, by the way, and he noted that, look, the coaching carousel started earlier this year than ever before. Entering the fall, 4 Power 5 jobs were highlighted: Arizona State, Auburn, Georgia Tech, and Nebraska. All 4 of those are vacant now. Obviously, the group of 5 had several tenuous situations. That included Jeff Scott at USF, which, by the way, isn't that fascinating? You can make an argument that is pro-Dabo when you look at his assistants and the failures that are taking place from all of them, right? Let's see, you look at Virginia, look at South Florida, been a shaky year at Oklahoma with Venables, right? And you're seeing these guys struggle, and you're like, well, maybe Dabo's got a little something to him. Who knows? But moreover, I think they're broken too. So all of a sudden you can't do that because Clemson's got good players. They shouldn't look like this.
Well, that might just be, and we've had this discussion a lot since the beginning of the FM Dial days. Are you a coordinator or are you a head coach? And they might have just had a lot of coordinators and stone cold recruiters. But I mean, in order to be a successful head coach, you've got to handle so much more than just diagramming plays and putting together a plan. There's an organization that you have to run. And Dabo has a lot of people hoodwinked, and they believe in him. So that's why they play hard for him.
This is an important conversation, and it's an interesting one. And we might as well just jump right into it. So not every situation makes it so painfully obvious that you need to move on, right? Jeff Scott's situation became very obvious. They lost 54-28 to Temple, Tom. Temple hadn't scored over 20 points in a game in like 6 weeks, and they scored 54 on USF. So that was sort of like, I think they've quit, everybody. I think they've quit. And so they fired him. You know, he didn't win games, and he's getting blown out by Temple. Pretty easy, straightforward Michael Kelly move. Got to fire my coach at this point, right? A lot of places it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But where we're headed with the money, in my lifetime, this is going to be perhaps one of the biggest changes to the sport. If you look at the Big Ten and you look at the SEC and you look at the annual payouts and where that's headed and the expanded playoff, the days of a guy who is an expert as a coordinator, the days of a guy that is just an elite offensive coordinator, an elite defensive coordinator, getting head jobs based around that coaching acumen, that prowess, I think are going the way of the dodo. You need those people, but you need them because you're a CEO. You are now running massive businesses. You are now running huge conglomerates. That's what college football is. It is no longer the folksy southern, pockets of the Midwest and a couple other places where the aw shucks guy goes into the living room and wins over a recruit and does a really good job and, maybe makes $200,000 a year. We are so far removed from that now. Now there are billions of dollars on the line. You've got teams bringing in $100 million. You've got coaches who are asking for millions of dollars in NIL money, if we're being honest, to be able to fund the machine. You have got to be a corporate titan. You have got to basically be a CEO. You don't have enough time to get down in the weeds and coach play to play, down to down, day to day. You've got a lot of hands to shake, a lot of speeches to give, a lot of travel, a lot of conversations on the phone or some sort of teleconference. You have all of these things that you're doing on the regular. A lot of coaches fail because they're not good at that stuff. They know the football. We know they know the football. They just fail in all the other aspects of putting together an organization. And so I think that teams like Nebraska and others, when they're searching for coaches, have to be looking at guys that are really good CEOs. I used to never want a CEO coach. I didn't believe in it. One of the things that bothered me towards the end of Bowden's tenure, obviously, was that he didn't coach, that he was just a CEO. And when we would lose to, say, Steve Spurrier, who was calling every single play and was in charge of every aspect of that offense, I would be jealous Not of the personality. Of course we would side with Bowden there. But I was jealous that I had a hands-on young coach who was calling plays, who was getting down in it, who understood play to play what was happening. We were moving away from that. So where does that take us? Okay, well, here's where it takes us. We've got a coach who is a down-to-down play caller. We got a coach who is young, vibrant, on-the-ground, hands-on. And we love that about him. But I do believe the future of coaching is going away from guys like Mike Norvell. Now, we're going to have to watch Mike build an organization and become really good at all that other stuff. And that's fascinating because that other stuff is what adds up to good recruiting.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I'd say about him and organization structure is I'll pull it up here. I mean, you're looking at some of the titles of the people that are here on the list, and this is the coaching staff for Mike and everybody else. But you scroll down, and you talk about an organization. You've got 2 directors of scouting, right? You've got any number of analysts, which is normal for college football and play calling and such. But you've got an associate athletics director for football in Bruce Warwick, who was also the general manager of the program when he was first brought on at Florida State. You've got a general manager of personnel in Derek Ray. You've got a director of player development and operations, a director of player personnel, high school relations director, recruiting operations director, player relations, football relations, assistant director of high school relations. I mean, director of recruiting, a creative media director. This is an organization. Mike Norvell has made a lot of these hires, and a lot of these job titles that you're looking at here are specific to Mike Norvell in the history of Florida State football. We haven't had an operation like this. When Bruce Warwick was brought in and he had NFL pedigree, helped move the Rams from St. Louis to LA in the dead of night in what was a black eye for that particular ownership group, he had to execute the orders from above that were going to take a massive PR hit. That type of experience is not typically something you associate with a college football organization. You think you need some scouting guys, you need some GAs, people who can look at tape, maybe a social media director, and some dude who could just stare at the portal and hit refresh all day long. And that's about it.
Yeah.
But from an operational standpoint behind the scenes, Mike Norvell is building redundancies, and he's building all kinds of those little the charts you see about who reports to whom. There are wings of this enterprise that haven't existed before. Even with Jimbo, who had a lot of complexity to how he wanted to run things, he was still going to micromanage over all of these areas. I would say that the last piece to the puzzle for Mike Norvell is being a badass in recruiting. Everything else, play calling, install, culture, leading the team, micromanaging their days and scheduling out a routine for all your players, all that stuff. And then the behind the scenes of the operation, he's got all that down, but you've got to empower people, bring in better people behind the scenes and also on the field to be able to recruit and close deals. Everything else though, he's ready to be modern. You just got to get better in recruiting.
It's fascinating though, because I do think we're going to watch the bumps and the bruises and the hiccups along the way. We've already seen it some because he's such a young coach. And I think areas, almost by definition, when you have that much on your plate, certain areas are going to suffer. If you're a day-to-day play caller, organizer of game plans, and all, certain aspects are going to suffer. It doesn't mean that right now he's not doing a good job. He's doing a very good job. And you're right to point out those things because I think it does show that he understands the bigger picture that I'm talking about, which is what these things are now becoming, these giant companies, for lack of a better term, right? And I do think that Mike will be kind of a hybrid in that sense. There are those guys out there who have shown they're capable of it. It almost reminds me a little bit of these NFL coaches that have put themselves in a bind, have put themselves, they're in a pickle. If you think about guys that end up taking jobs out of college because they had success and they get an NFL job and then they want to be the GM. So they're the coach, they're the GM. They want to deal with the salary cap. They want to do all that stuff, right? Those coaches oftentimes get fired. They end up. Matt Rule just had it happen. I mean, these are guys that all think they can be everything because, as Bill Parcells said many moons ago, oh, look, they want you to come coach, but they won't let you shop for the groceries. Remember all that? Okay. But he got fired because that didn't work out, because they were telling him no. They were saying, look, man, you have too many other things you have to do. Yes, you'll have input, but let our scouting directors do this. Let our Football personnel people do this. They're paid professionals for a reason. It's what they do. We'll get you the players. You go coach them. But he didn't want that. He wanted everything. He wanted to be able to choose accordingly. And it's just fascinating. We're going to watch Mike mature along the way. We've already seen some moments where his youth got him, and he made some mistakes, some immaturity there, whether it's play calling or reactions to games or whatever it might be. I like that he is such a good play caller. I like that he is such a good game planner, he and Alex. I just wonder if along the way, as this organization gets bigger and bigger and bigger, how does he morph? What changes with how he does things? I don't know that it will. He would tell you, I'm sure, I'm always going to be hands-on. Well, it's easy to say that when you're 40, early 40s, and you have the energy, and you're still molding the organization to get to where you want to go. You have to be a micromanager to some extent. You have to do all those things. But let's say this thing gets rolling the way that we want it to, which is that it's annually pick top 10. It's got elite level players at every position. You're competing to go to the college football playoff every year. At some point, when the machine gets to that level, and you've got to continue to feed the beast, can you be a micromanager? I don't know. I mean, Mike's done a really good job so far, as you said, of delegating and identifying. The number one thing he's got going in his favor that we should all be excited about as we watch this take place over time, he's really got an eye for talent in the coaching ranks. We both know that, and we've talked about that. His track record proves that. When he identifies coaches, most of the time, as guys that he wants to bring in, those are guys that he's scouted himself thoroughly and been impressed by, and those guys go on to bigger and better jobs.
Well, and he's got an eye for talent in the transfer portal too. They find fits, and not everybody is going to be a home run. Malik Feaster is another guy who came in late this year. We haven't seen in the rotation, but they knew they needed help at defensive back, so they wanted to take a shot with him. Some guys are going to be like that they're just not immediate plug and play guys, or maybe they never materialize, but they fit in the culture of the locker room. And by and large, the bulk of them have been major contributors. We've talked about this a bunch this week, but the transfer portal had its fingerprints all over the win over Miami. Everywhere you look, when somebody was making a big play, transfer portal kids came into play. They were the significant reason. Trey Benson is an embodiment of what you can get in the portal if you take a calculated risk with a culture fit. And this is the payoff for that. Fabian Lovett was a guy, your two guards, Jamie Robinson, Tatum Bethune. I mean, the list goes on and on. Jordan Travis, even though that wasn't Mike's guy. But Coach Norvell has been very good with the transfer portal. He's been very good with the delegation, the hierarchies. And I will say this too. As he was rebuilding this program from a place that was worse off than when Coach Fisher took over years and years ago, remember the look in Jimbo's eyes, in 2011 and 2012? That damn near killed him. The rebuild of the program. Mike has never looked beleaguered. He doesn't look overwhelmed at any points. He just looks youthful on the field at times. But there were times when Jimbo was trying to rebuild this thing. You thought, my God, is he going to get out of here?
Well, he wasn't sleeping. And then, I think the other part about that, and we don't want to go down this road, but there were problems at home. So you got, that situation, I think, kind of compounded the problem of having to micromanage, and then you didn't really have an oasis, right? You didn't have a place to go, your safe place.
Right. And I mean, this is before the medical issues for his son, though, too. I'm just saying that,
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm saying, but
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get it. And so Mike has done a very good, listen, one thing's for sure, and we love our guy at Arkansas, right? But the bottom line is, I do think if you're going to be this thing now, a big-time college football coach in a Power 5 conference, especially a money conference, like if we could ever get the hell out of the ACC, you have to be as disciplined as anybody in any walk of life in any field. You're going to have to get up every morning, butt a clock, work out, eat right, get to bed on time. Everything's got to be calculated, every second of it. And he is hell-bent on time and organization. And Tom, that's the first thing we learned about that guy was he respects your time because he desperately wants you to respect his. And there is not going to be any nonsense. I'm 5 minutes late. I'll roll on in here and we'll do this interview whenever. Oh, hell no. There is none of this. And it's almost annoying, I'm sure, for the people in the organization because we laugh at it from a distance. I mean, every time we go over there to the More Athletic Center, it's hilarious to listen to him tell everybody starting in 2 minutes. It's all of that, right? because he knows every minute of his day is accounted for.
Yep.
And you're going to have to be that.
Well, we've come back to it several times this week, and I think it's the theme for the next month is, all right, we love the progress, and we're not going to poo-poo that because we were hoping for 8-4, 9-3. This is the step you're looking for. Now pay it off in the recruiting world. What's next? That's the next thing.
Yeah. We can talk about that in a second. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. If you're hearing this right now and you or someone you know is active military, a veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a teacher, turn up the volume and listen to this. My friend Shannon with Legendary Home Loans has a Hometown Hero loan program designed to make a difference to those who make a difference. When it's time to buy a new home, he will waive all lender fees for all Hometown Heroes. That's a $1,600 value right out of the gate. Also, if you decide to use their preferred title company for their closing, you'll be saving another $600. That's $2,200 in discounts right off the top. That's like 20 tanks of gas in your car. And today, more than ever, it's important to save as much money as you can, wherever you can. So if you or someone you know is active military, veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a school teacher, and looking to buy a new home, choose Shannon Young, Legendary Home Loans, and ask about their Hometown Heroes program. Call 844-FSU-LOAN or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com. That's FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 2270146.
Clean, renewable energy means fresher air, healthier residents, new green jobs, and a stronger, more resilient community. How we get there is up to you. Share your input today to help shape the Tallahassee of tomorrow. Take the Clean Energy Survey at talgov.com.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
This is Andy Cohen. When I was a law enforcement officer, I devoted my life to a career of service and protection. Who's protecting you? Give me a call. 850-671-FARM. That's 671-FARM. Helping you is what we do best.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
Leaky faucet, busted pipes, clogged toilet? M&L Plumbing is here for you. For all commercial, construction, and residential plumbing issues, call M&L Plumbing at 575-9393 or visit online at mnlplumbing.com.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREON info.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Rolling on a Redemption Thursday, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Now we're joined by our partners at ISF. It is time to solve for the future. We kind of were just doing it. I'm sorry, ISF. I do this all the time. You guys are great. I know you're always here for us, but we start solving for the future of the segment before the solving for the future segment every freaking week. I don't know why we do that. We're not doing the right thing. We're not paying attention to the calm, right? Last week we talked about critical, consistent, accountable, listening, managing the game, all this sort of stuff, buddy. We didn't manage this properly. We should have managed this better. I lost out on the M. I screwed it up. ISF doesn't screw up. They're collaborative. They work with their customers that way. It's an IT strategy firm. You know that. They work with state government, business clients across the country. Just because they're in Tallahassee doesn't mean they don't help people all over this nation. They do indeed. Over 80 unique clients on over 1,500 projects. They've been really, really good, and they want to help you with your visions, your goals for the future. And they know that your agency wants that too. So they come, collaborate, help speed up the processes, if you will. They make it more efficient. We were just kind of talking about it. I think we should just extend the conversation in solving for the future. The recruiting, you brought it up at the tail end there. This is the new area of angst that needs to turn to strength. We've seen now the football field. They have found a way. They've been consistent. They've been accountable. They've listened to their players. They've done the things they've needed to do. Those players have listened to their coaches. They've all gotten to where we now trust the organization is moving in the right direction. But once you start showing signs that you can be good to very good, obviously everybody's striving towards perfection. You'll never reach it, but along the way, as they say, you might find excellence. And that taking that next step truly is not just about putting kids in a position to succeed, but by putting really talented kids in a position to succeed so that you don't have games like we had against NC State or games like we had against Wake Forest, where obviously you get exploited in certain areas. You want to get to a place where your talent is such that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen frequently. It happens very, very rarely. You want to get back to what we were in 2014, which was a team that never played well and won every single game but one. You know, that's what talent can do for you. And there are question marks about the recruiting prowess of this staff. And I think they're fair questions.
Yeah, I'd say it's the high school recruiting. It's about finishing in high school recruiting. They're good in the portal. They're really good. And we've talked about that ad nauseum. But it's about finishing the job with the high school recruits. And what you've got to do in order to create a better case for yourself, few things, but you have to take away the ability for your rivals to negative recruit you. And how do you do that?
You win.
Winning, first of all, putting explosiveness on film, in your own uniforms for kids to see. These two things solve a lot of problems for you in terms of a player envisioning themselves playing for you and also going on and making money at the next level, because that's what you're selling here. But then the other thing is that you got to make sure that your current players that are already here are going to give positive reviews for your program. The culture is healthy enough that when a kid comes in for an official visit or an unofficial pop-in, that if they see any of the current players, maybe somebody they played against the year before in the same county, and they ask them, hey, what's going on? They say good and positive things about you. So the thing that's happened in the last month, especially last weekend, is now you fortify the argument for stability. No longer can you be negative recruited against saying that Mike Norvell is not going to be there by the time you graduate.
Correct.
At Florida State. Already did as an offensive lineman, oddly enough. But now running backs can say for sure 2 straight years of explosiveness, yeah, I want to go play for that guy. Wide receivers for the first time in forever can say, I want to go play for that guy. Quarterbacks now can look at this system at Florida State and say, look at what they did in developing Jordan Travis. Yeah. I want to go play for that guy now. So you are mowing down the things that guys can negatively recruit against you for. Billy Napier can't say those things. Cristobal, or even up there at Clemson with Dabo, they can't say some of the things that they have been the last few years. The question is there enough time between now and this December in order to make this recruiting class different and better? Or is it only going to be about 2024 and you've got to dip into the transfer portal again? It's not that this recruiting class is bad. The top line guys at each position you have are good, but it's not as deep as it's going to be or it needs to be if you're going to be consistently a top 10 football team.
The frustration surrounding that, though, Tom, is that the evidence of all of the things that we now know to be true was on display when the first 4 weeks of the season, when they were 4-0 and they beat LSU. And those were the four most important games because of the early recruiting period that we're now in, where kids have to make a decision that's sped up. We said, if you're going to lose a game, make it after these first 4 weeks or so. Go ahead and stumble somewhere else along the way. Try to get that win on prime time with the country watching against LSU. Make sure you get that done, right? Take care of business in the high-profile games. That road Louisville game turned out to be huge, right? All those things, right? But they didn't really cash it in. And so I think we're going to be worried about this some. They don't have a bunch of dynamic recruiters. Alex Atkins is their best recruiter. Mike Norvell is pretty good, obviously, in terms of, connecting to kids. They don't have a lot of good recruiters outside of that. They really don't. And Florida State currently, depending on where you want to look, 17th, 18th, somewhere in that ballpark area. But they're behind programs like South Carolina. That can't happen. It's South Carolina. It can't happen. You can't, you can't be behind Miami. Miami's selling new car smell. I got it. But, they're behind too many programs that Florida State, both in terms of cachet, but also further along in the coaching, process, obviously, because our guys have been here longer. We're behind too many programs. You don't need to be behind Arkansas. You can't win anything long-term at Arkansas. Arkansas shouldn't be ahead of Florida State in recruiting, but they are. These are things that frustrate me, and I think are a reason for our fan base to kind of watch, all right, good job over here. All the stuff Tom laid bare.
Yeah.
Great job. We've got to take a step forward in recruiting. Like, I want to look up and see this is a top 10 class. It should be a top 10 class. You're about to go 9-3.
Right.
This ought to be a top 10 class.
Yeah, I agree. And some of that is out of your control with the NIL game, but I think we're robust enough to be able to handle 11th hour budgets too. And that's probably something, I know that you're dialed in and you understand what maybe some of the numbers they're working with. I would imagine a piece of the pie is also dedicated to 11th hour change of heart or, I need your final and best offer, because that's going to be a part of the game too. There's a lot of programs in this region that are desperate. And, Miami's going to be one of them. They're going to spend out of desperation now because this season has been a total failure for Mario Cristobal. So those players that they're securing just got more expensive. If I'm still going to go play for you, coach, because I don't love what I'm seeing right now, you got to come with it a little bit more, because Mike Norvell and Florida State are offering something. Well, sorry, Rising Spear is offering something.
Separate entity.
Mike Norvell is offering me a big opportunity to play there in that dynamic offense. Auburn's going to come with it this offseason. They are, because they're going to have a brand new coach. Tennessee is now much more in the fold and legitimate when it comes to offensive prospects. So I hope that they've got their ducks in a row when it comes to the collective and the budget continues to swell. I'm assuming that they're going to need some help there. But what is within Coach Norvell's control now and into next year is, where do I need to upgrade on staff? Because the stability argument now means when they go to the coaches convention or they
that's
talk
the biggest thing.
They got the super agent conglomerate that has everybody connected. Now Florida State is a landing spot for advancement. Mike Norvell will advance you, but the question is, would he have been here long enough to get you to the next step? Now Florida State is a fertile ground for that as well. So what happens in the next 2 months as we talk about the tough one?
Fascinating conversation, because it's going to involve having to do something that is extremely difficult to do after a successful season. He is going to have to really sit down, unshackle any emotional connection, and just purely in the interest of the long-term success of trying to win a national championship or go to a college football playoff, he's going to have to ask brutal questions about his staff after they've been successful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's tough to do. If you go 9-3, I'm just going to give you a hypothetical here because I don't know what he thinks, and this is for the purpose of the show. Say they go 9-3. Well, there's a chance that the defense has another good day on Saturday against Syracuse. That's not a dynamic offense. At some point, probably have another good day against Louisiana. And let's just say when Florida State, Florida play, Anthony Richardson doesn't feel like running around on that particular day. We've seen Florida nearly lose to USF, aforementioned, who fired their coach and stinks. So we've seen Florida have some clunkers. If that were to happen, Florida State would finish the season, obviously, on a very, very high note. Their offensive rankings are going to be superb. And if you're just looking at the numbers, the defensive rankings will be pretty damn enticing as well. But do you believe you have the right defensive coordinator? Do you believe you have the right staff on defense to attract elite 5-star caliber players at the most important positions on the field? Because if you don't, you may have to let some of those guys go who just helped engineer this 9-3 campaign with really good rankings. And that is going to be a question regardless of what the final scores are of these games. You're gonna ask yourself, can our defensive coordinator and that staff recruit at an elite level?
Well, and it also gets to the fit of a potential replacement as a developer versus as a recruiter. It goes back to the age-old, if you've got percentages assigned to what they're best at,
right.
How much can you handle for each new coach that you would bring in if you're going to go that route? But here's the thing. You've got 4+ weeks, everyone on that staff, to close and close strong. And remember, I'll take you back to December of last year when there was the high-profile decommitment, and then there was the shakiness from Armella when he said, I'm going to wait until –
Well, there was a lot of shakiness in that.
Maybe some phone calls were made, and by that night on signing day, he was saying, okay, Florida State, it is. But the look in Mike Norvell's eyes, and you could just see it and feel it that,
he was incensed.
Really? So our own calculations, when I say be honest with me, are you going to get him? And I get a yes and we don't. He's not going to forget about that. That's part of the bigger picture conversation. But these guys all have a chance in the next month to close off of the football field to make it easier to close on the football field. I'm glad we're having this conversation because it means that we have satisfied the 60 minutes every Saturday part of the equation, which we're a whole lot better. Now you can have this other thing, which is how are we going to get to the next step? The portal isn't always going to bail us out. What will? Good high school recruiting.
So that's how you solve for the future. You're brutally honest with yourself about the organization that you have, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And you figure out, even at the end of what may very well be a very successful campaign, do I need to make changes? And we're all going to continue to monitor that. Recruiting is the lifeblood of big-time college football. We all know it. That's my friends at ISF, the very best in collaboration. They want you to do amazing things. You want to do amazing things. You have big visions. You work hard. ISF, an IT strategy firm coming in, helping you solve for the future using strategy, process, and technology. We'll come back, wrap it up in a moment. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV.
WIC provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Trawick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Trawick, professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontrawick.com.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458, 800-481-1458, or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life.
Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Every great construction project, whether it's a new addition or renovation, starts with a plan. At T-Spark, we are excited when our clients contact us to assist with that plan. Through our team of architects, draftsmen, engineers, we can help you with your project's planning and design, potentially saving costs in the long run. Whether you have a residential or commercial project, we look forward to working with you. Call us today or visit us at tsparkconstruction.com. License number CGC 1525336.
Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Oh, hey there. I was just singing the praises of Crawfordville Auto and Tire. They do just about everything. Complete engine rebuilds, brakes, shocks, tires, oil change, you name it, they do it. And they offer a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. Most of the time, they can service your car the same day and offer towing to help you get to the shop. Now that's something to sing about. Open weekdays from 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night. Crawfordville Auto Repair and Tires.
Pre-game, post-game, no game at all, anytime is the right time for Zaxby's Platters. Just as long as you're hungry, feed your team with your choice of traditional or buffalo fingers or boneless or traditional wings. If you're having trouble deciding, get the best of both worlds with a sampler platter. And don't forget that world-famous Zaxby's sauce. It's delicious. Satisfy your chicken craving with Zaxby's Platters. Order online or in the app. Your Tallahassee Zaxby's, a proud Golden Chief booster for 17 years. As always, go Noles. Final segment of the show. Thanks to my friends at Tallulah. 3 locations in town. No medical card needed, guys. It's not like that. Premium, legal cannabis. That's right. CBD, THC, you name it. It's all there. What a great world we live in. Juices that will pick you up. They're effervescent, make you feel better. Don't question it, guys. It's all plant-based. You're okay. It's good stuff at Tallulah. CBD, mushrooms. Did I mention mushrooms? They got the shrooms. You're good. You're all good. And you can float around while you're on those shrooms, huh? That's right. Get into the pod. Relax a little bit. We're all feeling better these days.
I guess that means the obligatory touchdown honor.
There he is.
Yeah.
Cutest thing ever.
It is the cutest thing ever. And that's 6. You're scoring 6 right there.
I'm so happy. It reminds when I see that I picture Coach Gundy. Touchdown Cowboys.
That's another big play for the Cowboys.
By the way, that team has fallen off a cliff. Oklahoma State, folks, if you're going to look at the lines this weekend, is on quit watch. I've had a couple of very curious results.
You know, I was wondering, and to stick in the Big 12 for just a moment, this line really confused me, and I didn't notice that you play, or I noticed that you didn't play it, but TCU is more than a touchdown underdog to Texas. It's 7.5. What gives there?
I don't know. They can't help themselves. I think it's that they don't like TCU's defense. And Texas has been playing better, and Bijan Robinson's an all-world player, and they can run the ball, and TCU has struggled some against the run. But I don't like the number. I took TCU getting 7.5 when I first saw it. I took them with the hook. If I have to bet it, that's where I'll go. I think that it's the weirdest thing, and I know that I'm probably wrong about this, what I'm about to say. I think I may be wrong. But for 2 years, Tom, I think Vegas has some weird blind spot with Texas. How many times have they wanted Texas? Or I don't know about Vegas doesn't want, but people want. They want Texas to be something, and Texas routinely lets people down. I don't see it.
That's true. However, I would say 2 massive covers this year, one against Alabama and one against Oklahoma. I mean, so that might be a bit of a trend breaker. But I agree with you on the win totals, the win total projections. They're usually awfully optimistic. Like, you know, for us in Florida State, when I saw 6.5, I said, oh, man, that's an undervalue by at least a win. That should have been at 7.5, I thought, or 7 even. But at 6.5, you hit that all day. Texas, you routinely see it at 8.5, 9.5. You're like, really?
Well, they do the same thing with Miami. You know, Miami was preseason top 20 this year. AP 16th, I think it was. You had some people. There were people out there who do this for a living that thought Miami could make the playoff. I mean, that's something. I mean, I was wrong about Miami being I thought Miami would be better than Florida State. I thought before the season began, I thought that would be a hard game for Florida State to win. In fact, when we did our projections, I did not pick Florida State to beat Miami in Miami before the season. Now, everybody logically should do this in their own life. When you get evidence presented to you that runs counter to what you thought, you adjust accordingly. Hence the reason I picked us to blow Miami out 10 days before that game was even played. But preseason, I didn't know this, and so I got some things wrong and I got some things right. But I, too, was wrong about Miami, but in no world did I think Miami was going to be a top 10 team. That's just crazy.
Well, what makes me nervous about this weekend, just in general, from a card and betting standpoint, is there are so many strange lines that is Vegas just telling you and guaranteeing that you are going to have a wacky Saturday. Like, for example, we talked about it yesterday, and I know we got about 90 seconds to go, but a 3.5 number for LSU at Arkansas? Really? I mean, you even look at some of the innocuous games. Vandy, Kentucky is only 18. Louisville, Clemson is 7. I kind of agree with that one. But, I mean, Louisville's unranked, and Clemson is ranked currently number 10 in the country. There are some other games, too, out here, like TCU and Texas. We talked about that. I think that the Noles are only 7-point favorites is also strange. There's just a lot of weirdness going on with these spreads in the top 25.
And there is one final game that we can all smile about, and that is a battle of who is quitting harder or who is quitting with more gusto than the other. It's Texas A&M and Auburn. That's the game, folks. Who is quitting on their people more? Is it A&M and Jimbo Fisher's guys? Are they quitting at a level that is elite level quitting? Is Auburn throwing in the towel? Just fired our coach. What the hell are we playing for? We're getting a new guy in here anyhow. Who wants to quit harder? Auburn or Texas A&M? It's a 2.5-point spread. Could make for a juicy game. Could be zip in the fourth.
I like Auburn in that one. They played hard for Cadillac last week against Mississippi State.
I tend to agree.
For A&M. Yeah.
I tend to agree. It's a beautiful thing. All right, Tom, good work. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. It'll be like this again tomorrow on a Libations Friday as they continue to revamp the studio and do some things around here, plus the weather and all that good stuff. So that's what's going to go on for tomorrow. Hey, listen, be good. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you. Be safe. Talk to you tomorrow on a Libations Friday.